What if I told you that there are some country songs that had everything it takes to be hits but never did? From Mr. Bojangles by Jerry Jeff Walker, whom, despite never charting, has been covered by legends like Bob Dylan, John Denver, Harry Nilsson, Neil Diamond, to Merle Haggard's Living with the Shades Pulled Down, which has left a lasting impression on dedicated fans of country music. Here are 20 obscure country songs that should have been hits. From A Table Away by Sonny Sweeney.
Sure looked like you still wanted to be her.
Sonny Sweeney, From a Table Away, live. Sonny Sweeney never really had a song that topped the charts. Most of her singles, like the heartbreaking Bottle by My Bed, barely made it onto the charts at all. The closest she came was with From a Table Away, a song from her album Concrete. The song tells a painful story many country fans know well: infidelity. It's set to a steady beat with steel guitar and banjo leading the way. In it, the woman sings about sitting in a restaurant, watching the man she loves share a romantic dinner with his wife. Later that night, when he comes home acting like nothing happened, she lets him know she saw everything from a table away. The track first appeared in the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Songs chart in June 2010 at number 58. A few months later, it even made it onto the Hot 100, landing at number 96. By March 2011, it had climbed as high as number 10 on the country chart. With fiddle, heartfelt vocals, and a melody that fit perfectly, the song had everything it needed to be a major success. But even reaching the top 10 wasn't enough to keep momentum going. Like many women in country music, Sweeney faced a hard truth. When songs don't climb high enough, the record label pulls back its support. Soon after, she and her label split. To keep making music, Sweeney had to turn to her fans for help, raising money to put out her next album, Provoked. Chris Owen, a DJ in Buffalo, New York, said production and melody was perfect, while Sonny's twangy voice gave listeners the pain in the song's message. It reached the top 10, but was worthy of a number 1 placement. 15 by Taylor Swift.
Take a deep breath and you walk through the doors. It's the morning of your day.
Taylor Swift, 15, live on the Fearless Tour. When Taylor Swift released her second album, Fearless, in 2008, she was only a teenager, still figuring out life and love. Tucked between her bigger hits on that record is a song called 15. Some fans may overlook it, but the song is one of her most personal and honest songs. 15 tells the story of starting high school, with all the excitement and heartbreak that come with it. Taylor wrote it about her own freshman year in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and even included her best friend Abigail Anderson in the lyrics. One of the first lines she came up with was, "And Abigail gave everything she had to a boy, who changed his mind, we both cried." From there, the whole song unfolded. For Taylor, that year felt like the one where she grew up the most. She wanted to capture that feeling, the innocence, the mistakes, and the lessons learned. After finishing the song, Swift was unsure of how Anderson would respond because it was a really personal song, especially from her angle of it. Before including it on the album, she performed it for Anderson and asked whether she was comfortable with it. Anderson then consented to the personal references and said, "If one girl can kind of learn from it or connect to a song like that, it's totally worth it." According to Swift, 15 was like witnessing a loved one of hers undergo pain, which made her cry. Critics later called it one of her best-written songs, and though it may not have been as huge as Love Story or You Belong With Me, it still became a hit on the charts, climbing into the top 10 on country radio. Looking back, 15 stands out as a reminder of Taylor's country roots and her ability to turn real-life experiences into music that feels universal. Mr. Bojangles by Jerry Jeff Walker.
The new band Bojangles and you dance for you.
Jerry Jeff Walker on Austin City Limits, Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles is a song written and originally recorded by American country music artist Jerry Jeff Walker for his 1968 album of the same title. Back in 1965, Jerry Jeff Walker found himself in a New Orleans jail after being picked up for public intoxication. While sitting in the cell, he met a homeless man who called himself Mr. Bojangles. The name wasn't real, it was just a way for the man to hide his true identity from the police. Mr. Bojangles had been caught during a police sweep of people living on the streets after a big murder case in the city put pressure on law enforcement. Inside the cell, the men passed the time talking. They joked, shared stories, and tried to lift each other's spirits. But then Mr. Bojangles told a sad story about his performing dog, who had been killed by a car. The mood in the cell grew heavy, and the memory stayed with Walker. That moment inspired him to write Mr. Bojangles, which he recorded in 1968 for his album of the same name. The song quickly caught on and was later covered by many artists. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band recorded a version in 1969 that became a hit, climbing to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 by late 1971. Over the years, the song has been recorded by legends like Bob Dylan, John Denver, Harry Nilsson, Neil Diamond, and even Robbie Williams decades later. It also became one of Sammy Davis Jr.'s most famous performances. Davis not only recorded it for his 1972 album, but also sang it at the White House for President Richard Nixon in 1973. Lady came from Baltimore by Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, The Lady Came to Baltimore, CMA Awards, 1974. Lady Came from Baltimore is a haunting story song that shows Johnny Cash's gift for turning simple words into powerful storytelling. The ballad was first written and recorded in 1967 by folk singer Tim Hardin for his album Tim Hardin 2. It tells the tale of a poor man who falls in love with a wealthy woman from Baltimore. Driven by both love and desperation, he steals her diamond ring in the hope of building a better future for them. Yet, in the end, he admits his crime in a letter, confessing not only the theft, but also the poverty and social divide that doomed their relationship from the start. Hardin's original version was quiet and reflective, staying close to his folk style. When Johnny Cash recorded it years later, he gave the song a new edge. His deep baritone voice and spare country arrangement brought out the loneliness and regret at the heart of the story, making it feel like a confession told straight from the American underclass. Cash released his version on the album John R. Cash in January 1975, though the single first appeared in September 1974. It was paired with the song Lonesome to the Bone and found modest success, reaching number 14 on the U.S. Billboard Hot Country Singles Chart and number 11 in Canada. While it never crossed over to the pop charts it became one of his lesser-known treasures during a period when his career was shifting through personal struggles and label changes. The lyrics themselves reveal the heart of the story. These words matched perfectly with Cash's outlaw image, blending themes of crime, love, regret, and redemption. Other artists also recorded the song. Bobby Darin gave it a pop touch in 1967, and Joan Baez offered a softer folk interpretation. Still, Cash's version stood apart for its raw honesty and emotional weight. Though often overlooked among his more famous songs, Lady Came from Baltimore remains one of Cash's most striking ballads from the mid-1970s. All in Alabama by Hank Williams Jr. Hank Williams Jr. All in Alabama. All in Alabama by Hank Williams Jr. is a bold and personal song that tells the story of both the South and the singer himself. Written by Williams during the height of the outlaw country movement, the track appeared on his album Habits Old and New. Unlike many of his other songs, it was never released as a single. This decision left it in the shadows, even though its energy and meaning made it one of his most important works. The song reflects Williams' own journey. He had spent years living in the shadow of his father, the legendary Hank Williams Sr., while also surviving a near-fatal mountain accident in 1975 that left him with serious injuries. In his lyrics, Williams speaks of independence and defiance. In the song, he openly rejected Nashville's expectations, showing his determination to build his own career on his own terms. Musically, the track combines Southern rock and traditional country. Its twangy guitars and steady rhythm reflect Williams' rebellious character, while the words celebrate Alabama's land, people, and spirit. Unlike chart-topping hits such as Family Tradition or Whiskey Bent and Hellbound, All in Alabama was not pushed onto radio, which kept it off the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. The album itself reached number 12 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart, but its other singles, especially Old Habits, received most of the attention. Still, in 1980, Williams stood at the front of outlaw country, blending rock with country in a way that drew a wide audience. All in Alabama had the spirit to become a Southern anthem, much like Lynyrd Skynyrd's Sweet Home Alabama. Its exclusion as a single likely came from Columbia Records choosing safer, radio-friendly songs instead. Yet, despite its lack of commercial push, the track's honesty, pride, and defiance made it unforgettable to those who heard it. Little Old-Fashioned Karma by Willie Nelson.
A little old-fashioned justice going round.
Little Old-Fashioned Karma, live, 1983. In March 1983, Willie Nelson released Little Old-Fashioned Karma as the lead single from his album Tougher Than Leather. The song carried Nelson's familiar mix of wisdom, wit, and traditional country sound. Written and produced by Nelson himself, with bassist B. Spears assisting in production, the single reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart and number 20 on the Canadian RPM Country Tracks chart. While it performed well, it was modest compared to Nelson's major hit Always on My Mind from the year before. The lyrics of Little Old-Fashioned Karma explore the age-old idea of reaping what you sow. His worn, expressive voice, carried by acoustic guitar and touches of pedal steel, turned the song into a quiet meditation on life's balance. It was a sound rooted in the outlaw country tradition, yet polished enough to sit comfortably on radio. Why it was not a bigger hit is because at the time, country music was shifting toward more pop-influenced acts. Nelson, fresh from the wide success of Always on My Mind, presented something different, an honest, thoughtful song that leaned on tradition rather than flash. Its universal theme of justice and consequence could have reached the same broad audience that embraced Kenny Rogers' The Gambler. But Columbia Records may have placed its promotional efforts behind other singles, and the understated nature of the track made it easy to overlook beside the more polished hits of the era. Though it peaked at number 10, the song's influence lasted beyond the charts. Little Old-Fashioned Karma remains a quiet favorite among Nelson's listeners, often included in his live performances and collections. Romeo by Dolly Parton. Romeo. In 1993, Dolly Parton released Romeo, a lively country pop song that carried both charm and energy. It was the lead single from her album Slow Dancing with the Moon, written by Parton herself and produced by Steve Buckingham and Gary Smith. The recording brought together an impressive group of voices, including Mary Chapin Carpenter, Pam Tillis, Billy Ray Cyrus, Kathy Mattea, and Tanya Tucker, turning the track into a celebration that felt communal and joyful. Despite its star-studded backing, Romeo only reached number 27 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart and number 33 in Canada. For an artist of Parton's stature, this was a modest achievement, especially considering the attention such a collaboration could have drawn. The lyrics presented a light-hearted story of a cowboy whose presence captured everyone's attention. The song painted the picture of a dance hall evening filled with humor, flirtation, and fun. The upbeat rhythm, catchy chorus, and twang of guitars made it a classic example of 1990s country. At the time, country music was being reshaped by crossover stars like Garth Brooks and Shania Twain. Romeo had many of the same qualities: a strong hook, Parton's unmistakable charisma, and the support of leading voices of the era. However, its more traditional, playful style may not have fit easily into the polished sound dominating the radio. Even so, it remains a memorable piece of Parton's work, standing out as a moment where tradition and star power came together in one lively track. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. That Old Wheel by Johnny Cash and Hank Williams Jr. That Old Wheel. In 1988, Johnny Cash recorded a song called That Old Wheel with Hank Williams Jr. The track was written by Jennifer Pierce and produced by Jack Clement for Cash's album Water from the Wells of Home. At the time, Cash and Clement were shaping his second album for Mercury Records and wanted to bring in artists who were popular at that moment. One of those artists was Hank Williams Jr., who also happened to be a close friend of Cash. Their connection went back many years. Cash once recalled working with Hank Jr. when he was only 15 or 16, performing on his show and even stealing the spotlight. Cash said he had always wanted to include Hank Jr. on one of his records, and at last the right song had come along. The duet immediately caught the attention of Steve Popovich, a record company executive who supported the idea of pairing Cash with Hank Jr. That Old Wheel was a country ballad with a thoughtful message. It spoke of two friends moving through life together compared to an old wheel that continues to turn. The lyrics offered wisdom about facing challenges with strength and reminded listeners that those who do harm will eventually face the consequences. Released in September 1988 as the lead single from the album, the song reached number 21 on the Billboard Country Chart in December. While it was expected to achieve greater success, its message and the rare duet between two country legends gave it a lasting place in Cash's body of work. Still, despite its emotional weight and star power, the song fell short of the commercial success many believed it deserved. Nothing Sure Looked Good on You by Gene Watson. Gene Watson, Nothing Sure Looked Good on You. Live. In 1979, Gene Watson released Nothing Sure Looked Good on You, a country ballad that spoke directly to the pain of lost love. Written by Jim Rushing and produced by Russ Reeder, it came out as the second single from Watson's album Should I Come Home or Should I Go Crazy on Capitol Records. The song carried all the hallmarks of traditional honky-tonk music, with Watson's smooth baritone voice framed by steel guitar and fiddle. When the song reached listeners, it climbed to number 4 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart in 1980 and rose to number 3 on the Canadian RPM Country Tracks chart. Though it fell short of being a chart topper, it stood out as one of Watson's most powerful performances, even as he was often overshadowed by flashier artists of the era. The lyrics painted a story of regret and betrayal. The narrator reflects on a lover who left him for someone wealthier, only to discover that money and style could not replace genuine affection. Years later, Alan Jackson recorded the song for his 2009 compilation, Songs of Love and Heartache, showing its lasting influence, though the track was not included in his earlier album, Under the Influence. One of the reasons it didn't become a hit song was that in the late 1970s and early 1980s, country music was moving toward a more polished, pop-inspired sound. Watson's deeply traditional style, while beloved by many, limited its reach on radio during that period. Still, its emotional depth and timeless storytelling give it a place among the great ballads of country music, standing alongside classics like George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today. Dance the Two-Step by Susie Allinson. Susie Allinson, Dance the Two-Step Live, 1981. Not every song that changes hearts reaches number 1, and Dance the Two-Step was a proof of that. Susie Allinson released Dance the Two-Step, a bimbly country song that carried the energy of a honky-tonk dance floor while reflecting the smooth country-politan style of its time. Written by Lee Holdridge and Molly Ann Lakin and produced by Michael Lloyd, the track appeared on her Susie album under Liberty Records. Though it only climbed to number 23 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart, its upbeat melody and lighthearted lyrics should have made it a far bigger hit. The single was paired with the B-side You Never Told Me About Goodbye, written by Al Kasha, Joel Hirschhorn, and Michael Lloyd. Together, the two tracks balanced energy and romance, showcasing Allison's versatile voice. The song encouraged listeners to let loose on the dance floor. Allison performed the track on Pop Goes to the Country in 1981. When it was released, country music was dominated by crossover stars such as Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, whose pop-leaning hits captured mainstream audiences. Allison's single carried that same crossover potential, similar in spirit to Parton's 9 to 5, but lacked the industry push given to bigger names. Although Allison had earlier success with top 10 hits like Baby Don't Keep Me Hangin' On in 1977, her career momentum began to fade. As a result, Dance the Two-Step stalled at number 23 despite its radio-friendly style and dancehall appeal. In many ways, it was a song that deserved more recognition, standing alongside the lively, danceable country hits that defined the early 1980s. Let Me In by Kenny Dale. Kenny Dale, Let Me In. In 1980, Kenny Dale released a song that carried both warmth and sincerity, yet it never reached the recognition it deserved. Let Me In was a tender country ballad, marked by Dale's smooth baritone voice and emotional delivery. Written by Johnny Slate, Steve Pippen, and Larry Keith, and produced by Bob Montgomery, the single came out in February of that year as part of his album Only Love Can Break a Heart, released on Capitol Records. The song climbed to number 23 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart and reached number 50 in Canada, but this was modest compared to its potential. Its lyrics were a plea for closeness and affection, set against a gentle melody shaped by soft steel guitar and a traditional country arrangement. With a sound that invited slow dances, it had every quality of a hit, yet it did not break into the top 20. At the time, country music was shifting between its traditional roots and the rising countrypolitan style that blended pop influences. Dale's single balanced both worlds, combining polished production with romantic sincerity. Songs with similar qualities, like Ronnie Milsap's chart-topping My Heart in 1980, found major success. Yet Capitol Records focused its attention on more prominent names, leaving Let Me In underexposed. Just a year earlier, Dale had reached number 7 with Only Love Can Break a Heart. However, by the mid-1980s, his career had faded, and he eventually retired from music, later working as a school bus driver in San Antonio. Eyes That See in the Dark by Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers' Eyes That See in the Dark. Eyes That See in the Dark is a haunting country pop ballad that carries both warmth and sophistication. Written by Barry and Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees and produced alongside their brother Robin and Carl Richardson, the song reflected a polished sound that was far from traditional country. Rogers' distinctive voice, rich and emotional, blended seamlessly with the Bee Gees' sleek pop arrangements, creating a track that felt timeless. When it was released as the first single from the album of the same name, the song reached number 30 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart, but it found greater success outside of country radio, climbing to number 4 on the Adult Contemporary chart and peaking at number 79 on the Hot 100. The song's lyrics spoke of love that remains even in darkness. Backed by acoustic guitar, subtle synths, and lush harmonies, the song balanced country's emotional storytelling with the smoothness of pop production. The album itself, Eyes That See in the Dark, went on to reach number 1 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and became a commercial success. However, this single was quickly overshadowed by Rogers' duet with Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, which soared to number 1 on both country and pop charts later that same year. Why Eyes That See in the Dark didn't become a bigger hit is because at the time, Kenny Rogers was one of the biggest crossover artists in country music. With its emotional depth and polished production, the song had the potential to rival earlier successes like Lady. But country radio leaned heavily toward traditional sounds, and the Bee Gees' pop influence may have been too much for some stations. Wine into Water by T. Graham Brown. T. Graham Brown, Wine into Water. In 1998, T. Graham Brown released a song that revealed more of himself than perhaps anything he had sung before, Wine into Water. Wine into Water was the title track of his 6th album. Written by Brown along with Ted Hewitt and Bruce Birch, the ballad told the story of his own struggles with alcohol. The song was released on August 25, 1998, through Intersound Records and reached number 44 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart. Though it did not climb high in the rankings, its influence has outlasted many greater hits. The album itself, also called Wine into Water, reached number 47 on the Top Country Albums chart and number 38 on the Heatseekers Albums chart. Brown produced the song with Gary Nicholson, keeping the arrangement spare, with acoustic guitar, piano, and strings that left room for his soulful voice. Guest vocals from Steve Weriner and steel guitar from Bruce Boughton added depth without distracting from the song's honesty. Tom Owens of AllMusic praised it as one of Brown's finest works. At the time, country music was dominated by glossy, pop-influenced stars such as Shania Twain. Against that backdrop, Brown's gospel-tinged cry for salvation did not easily fit radio trends. However, its timeless message places it alongside inspirational songs like Randy Travis's 3 Wooden Crosses, Living with the Shades, pulled down by Merle Haggard. Living with the Shades, pulled down. Merle Haggard released his album It's All in the Movies in 1976. The record was led by its title track, which reached number 1 on the charts, but hidden within it was a lesser-known song, Living with the Shades, pulled down. Unlike the brighter tone of the single, this track told a story of a secret romance set in the hidden corners of the French Quarter and revealed a side of Haggard's music that leaned into outlaw grit. While the song never became a commercial hit, it left a lasting impression on dedicated fans of country music. Many saw it as proof that Haggard was more than the voice of the working class. He was also a master at painting atmosphere and weaving stories with detail. The music itself was built on rich textures of Western swing, complete with brass and sharp guitar runs. This sound reached back to the tradition of Bob Wills, showing how deeply Haggard understood and carried forward the roots of country music. Although Living with the Shades Pulled Down has not been widely included in Haggard's collections, it holds a special place among his listeners. Missin' Mississippi by Charley Pride. Charley Pride, Roll on Mississippi, MP4. By 1984, Pride was already a legend with 29 #1 country hits. But country music was changing, leaning toward younger, pop-influenced acts like Alabama. Despite this, Pride continued to release songs. One of those songs is called Missin' Mississippi, a ballad filled with longing and memories of home. The song appeared as the second single from his album The Power of Love and was written by Byron Gallimore, Blake Mevis, and Bill Shore, with production by Nora Wilson. Though it only reached number 32 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart and number 27 in Canada, the song carried a depth that went far beyond its modest chart success. The lyrics painted a clear picture of family life in Pride's native Mississippi. A gentle guitar and steel guitar gave the song a traditional country sound, while Pride's warm and soulful voice made every line feel personal. The themes of homesickness and belonging were especially powerful, echoing Pride's own roots in Sledge, Mississippi, where he was one of 11 children born to sharecroppers. The song, with its traditional sound and heartfelt delivery, struggled to gain the same attention as his other hits. However, its emotional honesty, carried by Pride's unmatched voice, deserved more recognition. Like John Denver's Take Me Home, Country Roads, it touched on a universal feeling, the pull of home. With greater support and promotion, it might have reached a wider audience and taken its place among the classics of the era. If you have heard any of these tracks, which one is your favorite? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our next video for more content.